the offense leaves a little bit to be desired, but
some
of those some of those players on Clemson on the defensive line are outstanding, and that was great to watch. And they rotate a bunch of people through, but it wasn't quite enough to save them against Georgia.
That leads me to one of my notes here. Clemson, half a team. So that defense, and obviously the defense just couldn't keep it going. Like they just ran out of gas being on the field and just got blown off the field in the second half. But that's a legit championship level defense, looks like. But with absolutely no offense. And I'm not necessarily sure if it's all the offensive talent or Klubnick's that bad. I tend to think Klubnick's actually that bad. Like he's managing to make Garrett Riley's offense look terrible.
Yeah, and that seemed like a home run hire 2 years ago, was the offensive coordinator when he was at TCU and then came over to Clemson, and it is not gelled so far. And that's what was really interesting again about the point last night that they made on the LSU USC game. They really made a point of saying, like, going against like what transfers do, and is like there's something value to be able to stay in the system and everything. But that is not the case with Klubnick. Klubnick has been there for a while. This is the second year with the offensive coordinator, and it did not look good. And that was, and Georgia's defense is great. I want to give them all the credit. Like their defense is outstanding, but it's still you wanted to see better offense from Clemson, and especially since Klubnick has been there a while, and that's very a large area of concern for Clemson.
Yeah, I mean, they have high enough recruiting classes. Speaking of Clemson, Klubnick was a 5-star. Does that, I wonder if that's kind of revealing that they don't actually develop offensive talent that well, but they recruit it. Well, you used to recruit it pretty well because they went from Deshaun Watson straight to Trevor Lawrence. Is this just a sign that unless they have almost transformative quarterbacks, they just can't really put an offense together?
Yeah, I think it could be that. I also think it could be that the rating system isn't 100%. Like some QBs are rated 5-star and high, but then they don't pan out, and it doesn't happen often, but it does, and it just feels like this is one of those cases.
Yeah, it just could have been a weak class, and got to give somebody a 5-star in a weak class, right?
So, what's another area of concern you had?
Well. Okay, so this one's a little bit off of people's radar, but it irritated me. I was watching the Michigan State FAU game, and the FAU quarterback had this tendency to slide really, really late and constantly draw roughing penalties and targeting penalties. And I think he managed to drop 4 or 5. And it got to the point where, as I was watching, I'm like, hey, this could actually be a loophole around the sliding rule. It's kind of like when Kenny Pickett fake slide back when he was on Pitt and then just kept running into the end zone and got a touchdown, and they immediately made a rule out about fake sliding. So this to me is manipulating it the other way around. You just run right up until you're inches away from the defender, then you slide. And at that point, the defender inevitably is going to touch you one way or another. And especially if they're not just standing, they're not trying to avoid you. They are going to hit you. And if you slide late enough, you can turn it into a personal foul almost every single time. And it's looking like, I don't know if he means to do this or it was coached. It was happening so often. It's either you coached it or you're just letting it happen. So I can't imagine his head coach is telling him, oh, don't do that. He's like, wow, that's 5 penalties now. Keep doing that. Like, why not? Those are just free yards.